headquarters. So that this CDSCH, it goes back to the chart.
So if the Prime Minister decides that Korea is facing a crisis, he or she in the future would set this in motion, just that one person.
Well, that's the formal mechanism for launching that headquarters that then creates everything else going. Then they set up the cash, which is deciding. But for the oil spill, for example, what is you have within the what used to be within the NSC Secretariat, a group that was just monitoring. There's just somebody always there, and if it's a domestic, if it's a natural disaster, or if it's infiltration by commandos from the north or something else, the call goes into that person to relay, inform them about what's going on, and you know, this all happens within minutes, if not hours. After the oil spill, you know, the information came in terms of what was going on. That was reported through the Coast Guard and through the Home Ministry. The call goes into the NSC Secretariat or the Security Policy Office at that time. This is happening. We need to set this up right away. And the Prime Minister says, okay, and then they set it up. And the Ministry of Fisheries has the lead, and they were on the phone with the Coast Guard within a certain period of time. They have a situation room which they created in 2004, which is very similar to kind of the situation room in the State Department for international crisis management. It's really just a bunch of terminals and people sitting around a table, but there's a spot for everybody who's supposed to be there, who has the emergency management agency is there, and I mean, and they practice these things in terms of when it's time to start up, and that's what the manuals were all for, so that people would know when this happens, where am I supposed to go. They check the manual and respond to that. So it still is within that. Now it's going to be, I would assume, within Kim Jong-kook's group to essentially make the decision vis-a-vis with the Prime Minister in terms of when to set this up, but in an international context.
Bruce, did you have a question? I'm sorry, did you?
No, I don't know if that. Sometimes it's hard without the charts to talk about, but.
I was just going to say I don't see a disparity on. I don't see a disparity between MV's group on the one hand, you know, keeping open the hand of aid to North Korea, with at the same time preparing not only for a firmer policy but also contingency planning if everything goes soft. It's kind of goes bad. And it's sort of like, you know, the old definition of diplomacy is saying nice doggy until you can find a rock. So you have both reaching out while keeping a contingency in your hand.
North Koreans notice a lot. Or so they told us.
Yeah, and also I think it's just, you know, it's another way of reversing no new tons policy. But, you know, if you didn't want to discuss Conclave 5029 and you did want OPCON transfer, the conservatives come in and want to undo OPCON transfer and want to make sure they have a Conclave as another way of, you know, integrating themselves.
Ernie Briggs?
I was intrigued by your reference to Blue Water Navy, Blue Water Fleet, South Korea being the largest modern shipbuilder, although China just passed Japan by 2. And just a little reference, I think it's related to, again, my India-China book, which I get into Blue Water Fleets a lot, but I had no reference in what I read, at least, on the Korean involvement. The fact is that military modernization going very fast, rapidly in China and India, with the Navy sort of out front. In China, longer-range destroyers and submarines. India is building its own first aircraft carrier, building submarines. China's not quite there. And certainly beyond Taiwan, which could be a crisis situation where Korea might get involved. But it's much further, and it's basically it's energy related in terms of national security. Malacca Straits and up into Bay of Bengal, India, and in fact, in the end of the chapter 6 point reference, my projection over the next 2 to 5 years is that the closest interaction of the three large military forces will be in the Navy, Blue Water Fleets, and there's already things happening, communication, and And the Chinese, of course, not just Malacca Straits, but they got pipelines coming down into Myanmar, and they're helping build a port, and also in Pakistan, pipelines in Iran. Chinese are building the port, which has the Indians very nervous because the port presumably gives rights to Chinese blue water fleets to come in. And there was a very provocative thing last year, an interaction of the navies of the U.S., India, Japan, and Singapore doing some joint exercises, which the Chinese felt was an encirclement by all these external democracies. So it's a very interesting area, and certainly the energy, as well as natural disasters, pirates, but mainly the energy thing, and very unclear about what the strategy is for China, and equally unclear what the U.S. strategy is for fleet interaction in a few years. So where is Korea thinking? Are they building a blue water fleet? Or what do they have? And they've been considering getting involved in these, what presumably will be regular exercises among the U.S., Indian, Japan, and other fleets. Where is this all going?
Well, the two largest investments are on the destroyer side. The Aegis destroyer development. The Tokdo was the the Tokdo was the landing ship. It's the King Sejong the Great destroyers. But anyway, these are Aegis destroyers that are larger than what Japan is building. They're Congo class, and they've commissioned the first one last year, I think. They're online to build at least 3 or 4 more, and these could conceivably, I mean, the United States is thinking in terms of, great, we have a new candidate now for helping to patrol the Persian Gulf, or being involved in very off-peninsula international maritime kind of security cooperation activities. Whether, and in some ways, our missile defense conversation with South Korea is also targeted at that. Let's develop your missile defense in a way that it can integrate with coalition maritime forces, be they operating in different parts of the world. They also have developed one landing ship. They have another one on the way. This is like a helicopter landing ship or a mini aircraft carrier, kind of similar to what Japan has also produced. They talk about it in terms of helping their ability to contribute to international PKO and disaster relief missions, but you don't necessarily spend that kind of money just for that particular purpose. And it was Mike McDevitt over at CNA who made the observation that this is a very Army-dominated military which has decided to make significant investments in the maritime side of the equation, which says a lot about the commitment and what a difficult decision that probably was. Also, submarine development going on, and they're also talking about building a new naval port, I think off Jeju, which will open up. Certainly it's got Japan's attention and China's attention as well. So I think they're committed to it, and ultimately this connects to some of what I was hoping to talk about today, and in a way I've used the crisis management discussion as a way to try to